You are listening to We Are the Compassionate Revolution. I'm your podcast host, therapist, author, boundaries guide, Molly Moon. If you are a compassionate person and you want to know your worth, set better boundaries, live from your truth, and operate in your fullness, then I am so glad you've joined us. You ready? Let's get started. We're going to talk about gray rock today. And this is a very practical boundaries tool that's useful in situations where you are stuck dealing with somebody who is narcissistic, abusive, or has strong anti-relational tendencies, whatever label you want to put on it. And in this episode, I'm also going to give you the 3 things that we compassionate people do most often to try to solve this problem. And I'm going to explain to you why those 3 things do not work and what you can do instead, as well as a safety caveat that's also important. And I also have a little gift for you. So this is a really packed episode. Let's go ahead and dive right in. So if you've been around me for any length of time, such as if you've been following my boundaries cartoons on social media, you know I am all about pro-relational, honor-based boundaries, because boundaries are about connection. And yet, some folks we interact with are not interested in connection. They're not interested in connecting with us in a healthy way. And I'm not talking about just one time, but repeatedly. Some people we deal with do not treat others with basic respect. Again, not just one time, not just here and there, but repeatedly. I can hear somebody saying right now, well, then just don't be around them. And yeah, right? That would be the easy solution. Just get away from people like that. But if it were that easy, we'd have done it already. Because the truth is, sometimes getting away from them is not possible in the context we're in, at least not right now. I'll give you 2 common examples where this happens. Example number 1 is when you are in a workplace and changing jobs is not currently an option because you need to be able to pay your bills to feed your family or take care of your needs. But in that job, you also have a very, very toxic coworker or boss. And it is not a good situation, but there's also not going to be an easy way out anytime soon. Maybe there's no other work available in your area. Maybe you've signed on to some sort of contract and you've got to finish out your time, otherwise you have to pay a huge penalty. I don't know. There's a number of different reasons why it might be a year or 2 before needed changes can be made. So you got to find a way to survive this with your emotional health as intact as it possibly can be, until you finally can get away. Another example of this can be in a co-parenting situation. And this happens sometimes with some of the clients I work with inside of my boundaries program, because it's unfortunately a common occurrence for people like us. Many compassionate people wake up to the need for a boundaries journey because they find themselves in a very, very difficult relationship. And while their partner has whatever problems the partner has, the compassionate person discovers in this whole process that they themselves do not have any boundaries, and that regardless of what happens with the other person or to the relationship, they themselves have got to discover and learn how to walk in their boundaries in order to have a better future. If the relationship is going to be saved, then they themselves have got to learn how to have boundaries within it in a loving way. And if the relationship needs to end, then they themselves have got to learn how to have better boundaries so that they can end it. The good news here, by the way, is that some difficult relationships can be saved through boundaries work, and we've seen that happen. There are relationships that on the surface look quite toxic, but it's due to ignorance. And your boundaries work combined with the other person getting whatever type of help they need can often turn those types of relationships around. I've seen it happen over and over again. However, sometimes Boundaries work helps a person realize, oh my goodness, the other person is not here in good faith. They have no interest in improving this relationship. And the right answer for me in this situation, hard as it may be, is to end this relationship safely. It's not easy to end a relationship, but it's much easier to leave an ongoing toxic situation than it is to continue to stay in it for years and years and years once you know that the relationship is not right for you. So the compassionate person works through the steps to get out of the difficult relationship. Some are easier than others. But even after that, when there are shared children, there are things such as custody, drop-offs, and pickups. So yeah, it would be wonderful just to never see the ex again. But unfortunately, they have to go see their ex every time there's a custody exchange. And here they are trying to be kind, trying to be respectful, trying to do the very best thing that would be good for the children, because children do not need to be in a situation full of chaos or drama or unkindness. And yet in some cases, no matter what the compassionate person does, the ex is going to be hurling insults, trying to incite a fight, saying rude things, during a time often when they're technically not supposed to be saying anything according to the court order. But as you know, when somebody is like this, has those narcissistic tendencies, they kind of do whatever they want, or at least as much as they can possibly get away with. So what do people like us do in those seemingly impossible situations where the other person is not interested in playing nice, but you also can't get away from them completely? Healthy, pro-relational boundaries, which invite connection and nurture love, they don't work very well with folks like this because that other person is not there in good faith. That other person wants to cause drama. They want to create chaos. They want to hurt you. They want to incite you into having some type of emotional response. And they don't mind that you're getting upset. They're counting on it. They're not being relational, and they have no interest in doing so. So what are your options then? How do kind, empathic, and generous-hearted people protect themselves when they're forced to engage with somebody who is going to be cruel or try to cause chaos or be hurtful or attempt to stir up drama? Here are the 3 main approaches we will try in this process of trying to figure out what to do. The first approach that most of us engage with is we try to increase their understanding. This is the path of explaining, because we think the problem must be that they just don't understand what they're doing or the impact their behavior is having. Therefore, if we just explain it to them better, then they'll naturally care about the problem and then change. We think, if I could just figure out the right words to say, or say the words in the right order, then, of course, they'll logically understand this is wrong, and then they'll stop. We think that approaching things logically will solve the problem, and this one gets a lot of us because it's really hard for us as compassionate people. It is so hard for our brains to consider that there are other people who are actually trying to hurt you on purpose, and they know it, and it's not going to keep them up at night. They're not going to feel guilty about it. For those of us who came into this world with a big conscience, I mean, it is kind of impossible to wrap our brains around this. Because for us, we don't want to hurt anybody. And it hurts us when we realize we did. Our stomach sinks, our heart hurts. Ugh, I hate hurting people. Yet it's nearly impossible to reach adulthood or function at all in this life without somehow hurting someone in one way or another, stepping on toes here or there, because that's just what happens in relationships, right? Even if there's no intention to do so. But it still feels really awful. Even after you apologize, even after you try to make it right, it still doesn't feel good. And we will often assume our experience is the same experience everyone else is having, that other people are like us. So naturally, when someone's hurtful, our brains think, oh, well, they don't mean to do that. That can't be something they're doing on purpose. I'll just explain it to them, and then they'll stop. By the way, this is a wonderful approach to use with somebody who's unintentionally causing harm, because We give them the benefit of the doubt, and we come to them with love and positive regard, and we share with them what's going on. And our energy, when we share it, gives them a beautiful opportunity to be able to hear us easily because we're not attacking them. Why would we attack them? And then they can make any needed changes. And our connection isn't harmed. It's made all the stronger because of the conversation that we just had together. But if you go try to explain how something's hurting you to somebody who's not there in good faith, how does that explanation land? Is it a conversation? No, no such luck. And in fact, if you do a really good job in your appeal to them, they can really only do one thing back: to effectively disarm your argument, because they have to disarm your argument. They see your attempt to explain things to them as an invitation to do battle. And if you do a good job, they've got to divert your attention off of them and what they're supposedly doing wrong and somehow make it so that you're focusing on you. They need to make the problem be you. So if you do bring up an explanation like this, it's probably a good idea to prepare to be attacked back, because they're going to find something wrong with you, such as you're too sensitive, or you didn't understand this correctly. That's not what happened. The other person might gaslight you and tell you it literally didn't happen, or some other approach to divert attention off of their hurtful actions and onto something wrong with you, so that if there's anything they know about you from the past, they'll bring that up and throw it at you. And suddenly the conversation you're having that you meant to have in order to improve connection and stop any harm from being done is now somehow a big conflict where you're fighting for your life, or at least that's how it feels. And they like that. It works. Their behavior that was hurtful on purpose worked because it got your attention, and now it's causing chaos. It's causing pain. It's causing harm. That was the point. And imagine our shock and surprise when it turns out they know exactly what they're doing, and they're doing it on purpose. It's so mind-boggling when we realize it's a game, or there's some cunning plan in it. And we may never know why they do that, because we don't have a mind like that. I used to twist my own mind into pretzels trying to figure out why, thinking that if I could understand why, I would finally solve this mysterious puzzle, until one day I finally received the clarity that brought me back my peace. And I realized understanding their why is not my business. My business is me. So I just need to accept that they are showing up for their life that way because they have free will and they can choose to show up for their life any way they want. Understanding why is above my pay grade, and it's a waste of my energy. If you're a spiritual person, another way of saying that can be understanding why is between them and their higher power, or understanding why is between them and their karmic pathway. It's between them and their own soul's evolution, however you best make sense of it. Not your business. The boundary here is quite clear. Our job is to accept that this is how they're choosing to show up for their life, and therefore we need to adjust our boundaries around it. Not adjust our boundaries to what we wish they would be, or how we wish they would show up for their lives, but adjust our boundaries around how they're actually showing up, because boundaries are for the here and now. And since understanding why is possibly not something I will get to know in this lifetime, it is far more helpful for me to simply accept that it is happening, and thus I must set my boundaries accordingly. That's my business. So no more explaining to them over and over and over again, thinking that someday they might understand. No. As we realize our explaining and explaining and explaining will have no impact, it will change nothing, all it's doing is wasting our energy, we will finally stop. Again, it's a healthy approach and a healthy relationship, but this isn't a healthy relationship, and that is the point. Which brings me to the second most common strategy that will not work for similar reasons. In this one, instead of appealing to their logic, we try to appeal to their heart. We approach the issue from a place of emotion and empathy. We share with them vulnerably, heart to heart, about how it feels to be on the other side of their behavior. We're being vulnerable here in appealing to our shared humanity, which is a really beautiful thing to do in a healthy relationship. Because in a healthy relationship, both people care. And yet, does that help situations like this? No. It's quite the opposite, actually. In situations like this, we'll find that every act of openness or vulnerability on our end ends up being used against us. In a situation with somebody like this, sharing that their behavior is hurtful to you is telling them their approach is working because they want it to hurt you. That's the point. They like that. It pleases them. Now they know to continue to do it to you. Your vulnerability in this situation is not a place of connection because they're not here to connect. And that brings me to the third approach that some of us will then decide to take. And I saved this one for last because it's common enough. However, it often follows only after the first two approaches have been tried over and over and over again. And we reach the point where we know they don't want to understand this logically. They don't care about how I feel. Okay, well, if logic doesn't seem to be making a difference, and if appealing to their heart doesn't seem to help them move towards any sort of change, then maybe if I act like them, maybe that's the language they will speak. Maybe that's the language that will help them hear me. Because then they'll be able to feel how it feels for themselves. Maybe then they'll finally get it. And this is where we decide to be mean back or be aggressive back. So now we're matching anger with anger. Or if they're always playing toxic games, we'll play toxic games back, thinking that's somehow going to help solve this problem. But as you know, if you have tried this before, not only does that not solve the problem, it just makes everything worse. And not to mention, for everybody who might be observing the problem between the two of you, guess what it looks like now? Instead of the situation clearly showing one person as the aggressor and the other person as the victim, now it just looks like two mean people engaged in drama games. Two people engaged in angry fights. Two assholes, not one. Now it's really easy for somebody out there to think it's a 50-50 problem and totally miss the true dynamics of what's been going on. That you've actually been being abused for some time and you're finally just responding back. You're snapping. But that angry response, though it makes sense how you'd feel like that, I'm not saying it doesn't, but it doesn't help anyone and especially doesn't help you. And on a practical level, it can actually make things much worse for you. Meanwhile, the other person's probably loving it because getting you to react like this can be done on purpose by the person trying to do you harm. Sometimes they will literally poke and poke and poke so that you will finally snap and have a response like that so that they can enjoy the chaos that makes, the shame that causes you. Because first of all, they know that you have a conscience, so you're going to feel horrible about how you acted, and they're going to help you feel horrible. Shame, blame, it's going to be coming your way. And also now, they get to be the quote-quote victim of you. Because remember, they're not there in good faith. So they're not interested in self-reflection or growth. They're interested in winning. Winning what? I don't know. It's whatever game their ego's playing. But now, you've played into it. So now you're a big meanie pants, and you are the one who said all those things or did all those things. Now they're the innocent one, and they're actually a victim of you. Point being, all three of those responses, the logical approach, the compassion and empathy, shared humanity approach, and the respond in the same way that they're treating you approach, do not work in situations like this. The first two would be helpful if it was a healthy relationship, mind you, but this isn't one. Essentially, any engagement with them seems to hook us right back into their need for causing you harm, making you have big emotions, and looping you into their drama or chaos. So going gray rock is a boundaries technique that can help. One of the biggest missing pieces for compassionate people as we heal and come into our power is boundaries, because we've been trained not to have any. And I've experienced that not only in my own life, but with tons of people I've worked with as a therapist, fellow counselors, physicians, teachers, social workers, people who care. We know we need boundaries, but how? And then if we try to have some, we feel selfish, guilty, or mean. That's why I have such a strong focus on boundaries, because boundaries are integral to our empowerment. But people like us need to discover our boundaries in a way that actually works for our compassionate hearts. And that's what my Boundaries Breakthrough mini course is all about. It's just $19, it's packed with value, and it's so easy to do. You can get the Boundaries Breakthrough mini course at boundaried.com. That's boundaried with a D.com. The link is in the show notes, and I hope you have a blast in the mini course because it was really fun to make for you. Now, the name Gray Rock was actually coined in 2012 by an American mental health blogger named Skylar, and it kind of took off from there, and it's now got a life of its own. But I just want you to know I did not come up with this, though it's now a popular term. And I love how easy, so thank you, Skylar, wherever you are. I love how easy this metaphor is to remember, which is funny because the whole point of an actual gray rock is that you don't remember it. The idea is that instead of engaging with this other person who is not there in good faith, you just stop. You become like a gray rock, nondescript, blending into the background, nothing to see here. I actually just took a walk on a gravel pathway, so let me paint you a picture from my walk. Say you're outside with me and we're walking along. The sky is blue. There's songbirds in the aspen trees. There's moose hoof prints to show right where a mama moose and her baby crossed the path, probably the night before. This is Alaska, by the way, so moose prints are everywhere. There's a pair of robins in the path ahead scouting around for food for their babies. And oh, look, a black and white moth just flew right in front of me and landed at my feet. So I step over her carefully, and the wind is gently moving in the leaves of the trees. I love that sound. Oh, and there's a carpet of little white flowers nestled in green leaves on the edges of the path, and there's moss and cranberry bushes right after that. Oh, and there's an old spruce tree that's fallen over to my right, and I'm thinking about the circle of life as I walk. Maybe we're talking about that together. That whole time that we're walking, taking in nature, talking about whatever it is that we're talking about, we're walking on a path of little gray rocks. Our feet are crunching on them as we walk. But as I pull up memories from the literal walk I just took, gray rocks are not among them. What's funny is I remember the little black and white moth with clarity because she landed right at my feet, where the gray rocks were at, but that's the point. I remember the moth, but not the gray rocks around the moth, because the gray rock, both in real life and in the metaphor of this boundaries tool, is so present that it's not. It's so visible, boringly visible, that it doesn't attract any attention from our brain. It's so nondescript that our brain doesn't even try to describe it. It doesn't register to our brain as being anything. From a boundaries perspective, going gray rock is all about quietly pulling your energy in, kind of like a turtle does when it goes inside of its shell, and no longer drawing attention to yourself, no longer providing access to any vulnerable areas that would be used as a target. And this makes sense because the other person has shown themselves not to be safe or trustworthy over and over again. They seem to take a perverse delight in causing hurt or creating drama over and over again. So by going gray rock, we become boring. There's no emotional outrage to be had. There's no fire in us. There's nothing fun for the other person to try to stir up in us. They might be trying to incite drama, but it takes two to play that game, and we simply, quietly, stop playing. It's a quiet, boring, life-changing boundary. It's the essence of not my circus, not my monkeys. Because it isn't. Their drama, their chaos, their love for hurt, that's their deal. We're not interested. And besides, what do we even get out of playing? What do we get when we respond to their nonsense? More nonsense. So stop. Don't react. Don't respond. Don't get hooked. Become like a gray rock. The other person is unable to get into your business, so now they don't have stuff to insult you or degrade you about. They start getting bored because there's really nothing to do. We keep conversation about boring things, the weather, how'd the sports game go. We just keep it about boring, shallow things. We're bland, we're colorless, we're nothing. And eventually they get bored because we cease to become a fun target. It's actually kind of like fishing, in that the other person keeps casting out their fishing line, putting bait on the hook to try to get us to bite, and we just stop biting anything. And the idea is, after a while, and it may take some months for some people if they're used to always being able to hook you, but over time, a person's going to get tired of fishing in a spot where there's no bites. They move on to somewhere else because you're no fun anymore. But you have to be steady when you decide to go gray rock. If you don't bite the hook 5 times, but then bite it on the 6th time, guess what? That's enough to keep them coming back. It's if you consistently don't bite because you're not a fish anymore, you've become a gray rock. Nothing to see here. There's no mouth to bite with. They will stop trying, or at least mostly stop trying, and things will finally get a bit easier for you. Now, is going gray rock good for you? No. Make no mistake about it. Having to go gray rock is not something you do because it's good for you. It's not good for you to have to become bland and colorless and have no real opinions about anything meaningful. That's not good for you. But this whole entire situation is not good for you. So in this case, our boundaries solution is looking for harm reduction. If you cannot get away from this person, not right now, and you have to engage with them sometimes, then the goal here is to find a way so that this toxic relationship dynamic with them causes the least amount of harm to you possible. That's what gray rock does. Don't do gray rock and think that it's going to make you happy and healthy, because, gray rock is not something ideal. It's painful. It's actually painful to do, but that's because the situation is painful. It sucks that you even have to do this. But because the situation is so bad, gray rock is better than anything else. And it goes without saying here, but this is an important caveat I want to say anyways. If you are in a relationship with somebody who's physically violent or life-threatening, then going gray rock may or may not be a safe thing for you to do. Every once in a while, there's a person who's incredibly violent, and if you don't react for them, they respond by amping up, and they'll keep amping up and get worse and worse to make you react. So if you are in a situation involving domestic violence or threats to your life, and you feel like the person you're with could get more reactive if you don't give in, I always recommend then talk to a domestic violence counselor and get an individualized safety plan in place that takes into context your unique situation. And do that especially before you engage in any new boundary strategies, including gray rock. Again, if you have any doubts for your safety, if you think that going gray rock would incite someone to even worse violence, trust your gut. Don't do it. Seek individualized counsel before you try, okay? But for everybody else, assuming you're not in a situation involving threats to your life or violence and you feel safe enough, then gray rock is a technique that can prove to be really helpful. And in most situations, it actually makes things safer for you because they get bored and move on. The other caveat I want to give, and it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen sometimes. Sometimes people confuse gray rock with the silent treatment, and they're not the same thing. Going gray rock is not us trying to punish someone. Gray rock is not about us being punitive or trying to be unkind or hurt them back or show them by not responding. The silent treatment is where a person refuses to communicate with the other person in order to hurt them or freeze them out. Trying to hurt someone through ignoring them is not gray rock. The silent treatment is anti-relational behavior. Gray rock has a whole different energy to it. Gray rock is simply accepting that this other person is going to be anti-relational, so we're just not going to participate in their game because we don't want to continue to try to engage meaningfully with somebody whose primary goal is to hurt us. That wouldn't be loving or kind to ourselves to do that. And so by going gray rock, we simply are accepting and respecting the way they're choosing to show up. And if they ever change, that'd be wonderful. But until that time, we're just not going to engage. We will still be kind, we will be polite, we will be respectful, but we're keeping everything at a surface level. And our goal is to be boring and non-descriptive and to attract zero attention. That's the goal. This is harm reduction for a difficult situation. If I had to sum it up, I would say going gray rock essentially removes your interaction with the unboundaried drama kindly, respectfully, firmly, and boringly. Because, and you might want to write this down if you're taking notes, access to you, and that includes your feelings, your thoughts, your preferences, your goals, your hopes and dreams, is a privilege. And if somebody can't respect that privilege, they don't get to have it anymore. That's boundary. Speaking of which, if you like written things, I have a really cute little PDF on gray rock that Nikki, the creatrix on my amazing little team, put together for you using some of my cartoons, which is so sweet of her, and it's totally free. So if you'd like a little written accompaniment to support you as you learn or practice this new tool, you got it. You'll find it on my website, but it's not listed openly. This is special just for you listening. So what I want you to do is when you open a browser, type in the link boundaried.com. That's boundaried with a D.com, my website, but add /gray rock. Boundaried.com /gray rock. One thing though, there's two ways to spell gray. Some people spell it with an E, some people spell it with an A. So in this case, spell gray with an E, okay? Boundaried.com /gray rock, gray with an E. And you'll see the little form there. You put your email address in and you'll get a cool little PDF delivered to your inbox. Thank you, Nikki, by the way. That was pretty cool. But that's just it. At the heart of it, it's that you are precious. Your life is precious. Your energy is precious. So somebody out there might be deciding to be hurtful, trying to get you to join them in that ugliness, trying to get you to give them your attention or give them your time or your focus. They like it that this makes you angry or mad or frustrated or confused or afraid or anxious. Again, I don't know why they like that, but that's where they're at in their growth. They're feeding off of it. And trying to understand why, that's not our business. What is our business is taking care of ourselves. So at the end of the day, once we see the dynamic for what it is, once we realize, for whatever reason, they're choosing to continue to engage in this anti-relational behavior, then okay, it is what it is. And then it falls on us to treat ourselves with respect. They're not going to, but we can. It falls on us to protect our energy as best as we can in the situation. They're not going to do that, but we can. And it falls on us to do our best within the power that we do have to engage in a life that is as free from the drama as we can, as free from the toxic games and unnecessary hurt as we can make it. They don't get to be in control of our emotions. And we don't have to bite every hook that they dangle in front of us. So going gray rock is a tool that can help us to that end. Now, it goes without saying that going gray rock is just one tool in an entire massive toolbox. And if boundaries are something you know you need, I have so much more I would love to share with you because I'd love to help you. I firmly believe that as compassionate people, one of the primary things most of us are missing is our boundaries. And when we find those boundaries and learn how to walk in them, the sky's the limit. Doors open up to us. Our power and our energy returns to us. Peace and joy comes back to us at levels many of us never experienced before. So many good things are on the other side of us becoming boundaried. And for me and my amazing little team, it's our mission to empower compassionate people through becoming boundaried. So if that's something you would love, then I'm already feeling excited for you over here. It's going to be so much fun to get to work with you. But for now, it's time to bring this podcast to a close today. So thank you. Thank you so much for being here with me. What a treat it is to have you listening. Until next time, remember, love is the way, and you are worthy of the same love you so easily give to everyone else. My compassionate friend, I am so glad you're with us. We are the compassionate revolution. We are the change the world needs, and we're becoming it. If you loved this episode, please share it with a friend or give this podcast a 5-star review. I'd appreciate it so much. And if you'd like to get practical and work with me more closely on boundaries, you can come visit me at boundaried.com. That's boundaried with a D.com for amazing resources. Because this is how we do it. One action at a time. We are moving into our power. And I'm so proud to be in this movement with you.